Hi guys, it's Miss Marion today. So today we're going to be talking about exponents. So we've done exponents. This is a review. But if you don't remember, we're going to go ahead and go through this. So you should have a note page that says exponents review notes. And so you need to go ahead and follow along and fill in the answers, go along with us, take notes, so then you can actually go ahead and do your homework for today. All right, example number 1. So notice how we have here where it's a negative and then parentheses 6 to the second power. So with a negative on the outside, remember that mathematicians do not like to write down ones. So this is really actually saying -1 times 6 raised to that second power. And then, okay, so we have this -1. What does that 6 raised to the second power, what does that actually mean? That means we're going to take 6 and we're going to multiply it twice because there's a 2 as the exponent, and we still have that -1 on the outside. So let's grab our calculators. Let's do 6 times 6. We know 6 times 6 is 36, and then multiply it by -1, so we have -36. Now I know some of you are like, but Miss Marion, if I put it in my calculator, it's not doing that. If you're going to put it in your calculator, you do have to make sure you have parentheses around it with an exponent of 2. So to show that the negative's on the outside. So we're doing 6 to the second power and then give it a negative is pretty much what it's actually saying. So this is example number 1. With example number 2, this is order of operations, right? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? My aunt's kind of funny, so let's fix that. And so we want to go ahead and do parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. And remember, it's love rookie because it's left to right with multiplication and division, and then left to right with addition and subtraction. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look in through here and I'm going to go, okay, I need to do my exponent first. So I still have my 10 plus 2 being multiplied by, and remember we have an exponent of 3. That tells us we're going to take -4 and we're going to multiply it by itself 3 times. Right? So let's go ahead and do that. So we still have the 10, we still have the 2. What is -4 multiplied 3 times? So grab your calculator and let's do -4 times -4 times -4, and that is -64. So now we have done, right? We have done the exponents. Next, we're going to read it again. We're going to look for multiplication and division. We do have multiplication because we have this little multiply. So we're going to take 2, multiply it by -64. And that is -128. So we still have our 10. We're still adding, but then we have -128 because that's where that stuff came from, right? So let's go ahead and let's add the 10 to the -28. And our final answer, so we're going to combine this, right? And now we're going to have -118. So our answer is -118. So this is example number 2. All right, let's keep on going. So we have example number 3. Notice how we have -2 raised to the 4th power. What does that mean? Oh, we're going to have -2 being multiplied 4 times. And then what is this? Is -2 3 times. So we have -2, -2, -2. And both of these groups are being multiplied together. So let's look at it. Oh, notice how there's -2 being multiplied over and over and over again. How many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? And so we want to go ahead and we want to combine everything together. And if I wrote it as an exponent, that would be -2 raised to the 7th power. So we can actually go ahead and we can write it where we have just the exponents in there. And then we can always go ahead and find like the answer to. So go ahead and solve it. We have -2 raised to the 7th power, and that is -128. So either or. So if I was asking to write it as an exponent, it would be -2 to the 7th power. If I'm going to go ahead and solve it or expand it, then it would be -128. All right, so let's look at example number 4. So example number 4, we have 1/2 raised to the 4th power, 1/2 raised to the 2nd power. Right now, let's write it as an exponent. So the first group, I have 1/2 being multiplied how many times? Oh yeah, that was 4 times because that's a little exponent. The next group was multiplied twice, right? So let's go ahead and let's find out. So 1/2 is being multiplied over and over and over again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Okay. So I can write this as 1/2 being raised to the 6th power. And remember, whenever we have a fraction, it does need to go into parentheses form, right? And we can go ahead and take our 1/2, raise it to the 6th power. We're going to go ahead and figure that out. If you put it in your calculator, it's going to give you a decimal. But I really want the answer as a fraction. So I'm just going to kind of look at it as, okay, we have 1 being raised to the 6th power. We also have 2 being raised to the 6th power. So the top is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the bottom. 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, right, is 1. And then we have 2 being multiplied by itself 6 times, that is 64. So I can either write it as an exponent, and then if I wanted to find the value of, or to kind of solve it, it would be 1 over 64. And remember, if you start with a fraction as an answer, you're going to end with a fraction as an answer. All right, example number 5. So how many W's do I have on the top? Look at the exponent, there's 5. So let's write that out. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're doing division, right? And then how many W's do we have on the bottom? If we look at that exponents, that's 3. So we're going to have 3, 1, 2, 3. Now remember, when we're doing division, we can cross out things on the top and the bottom that are exactly the same. Because if we do 2 divided by 2, it's 1. So technically it makes a 1. But if we have exactly the same on the top and the bottom, we can cross it out. So cross out W and W. Cross out W and W. And then we can do one more, W and W. Okay, so there's no more W's on the bottom that we can cross out anymore. And this is what we have on top. We know that W is being repeated over and over again. Well, how many times is W being repeated? That's twice. So we're going to have W raised to the, now what is that exponent? Well, there's 2 of there. So that means we're going to raise to the 2nd power. So W to the 2nd power is our simplified form of W to the 5 divided by W to the 3rd. So let's look at example number 6. So we can have this as a negative exponent, right? And I want to actually write it as a positive exponent. So remember, we have that kind of fraction kind of stuff. So right now, this is on the top part of the fraction. So if I want to go ahead and make the -3 a positive exponent, remember that's when I used to live in Layton, and I had to move my house, then I became positive person, right? Same kind of thing. So I'm going to take the 2 raised to the negative power. I'm going to take 2 to the 3rd power, and I'm going to put it on the bottom part of the fraction. It moved its. Notice how the 2 has a positive exponent of 3. So when we have it, when you move where it is in the fraction, it's going to change its exponent, either positive, negative, negative, positive. But the 2 to 3 is in the basement or the bottom part of the fraction. How do we see that? Oh yeah, we're going to put a 1 on the top. So I can write this as a positive exponent. I can also go ahead and simplify further and figure out what the actual number is. Okay, so we are going to write it not as a decimal. We're going to write it as a fraction. So so we have the 1 on the top, right? And then what does 2 to the 3rd mean? Is we're going to have 2 times 2 times 2. Grab a calculator, 2 times 2 times 2. Oh, that's 8. So 1 over 8 is the simplified version in finding the number of 2 to the -3. All right, example number 7. So we have 4 to the -2 times 4 to the -1. We want to go ahead, first of all, we want to write these as a positive exponent. Same kind of thing that we did before. I have 4 to the -2. This is on the top part. Both of them are on the top part of fraction. I have to move them down to the bottom part of the fraction to make them a positive exponent. And we're going to do that for both. And notice how we're multiplying both of these fractions. So let's bring them together. So we have 1 over 4 to the 2nd times 4 to the 1st. Let's expand it even further. 4 to the 2nd, that's 4 times 4. And 4 to the 1st, oh, that means we only have 1 4. And then we want to go ahead and we want to multiply this together. So remember, I need it as a fraction, not as a decimal. So we're going to have it as 4 to the third, or we're going to have it as 4 times 4 times 4. We're going to find that number. That number is 64. So our answer is 1 over 64. All right, example number 8. Zeros. Anything raised to the 0 power is 1. So notice how V has a 0 power. So what is this answer? It's just 1. It's not V to the 1. It's not V to the 0. It's not 0. The answer is 1. Anything raised to the 0 power is 1. All right, example number 9. Let's expand this a little bit further. So we have 242 y to the 0. So this actually saying is 242 is being multiplied by y to the 0. So does the 0 power go to the 242? It does not. The 0 power only goes to the y. So really what is this saying is we have 242 times 1, and if we multiply those together, it would be 242 as our answer. All right, example number 10. Notice how we have 1/4 b. All of that's being raised to the 3rd power. So that means 1/4 b, I have 3 of those. Let's write that down. So we're going to have 1/4 b times 1/4 b times 1/4 b. Let's put all the coefficients together, the numbers. So we're going to have 1/4 times 1/4 times 1/4, right? And then let's put all the b's together. B times b times b. So let's go ahead and let's multiply the 1/4 together, right? Remember, we're going to have that, and we want to write it as a fraction. So 4 times 4 times 4, 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 is 64. But then notice how we have b, right? And how many b's do we have? There's 3. So how do we write this as a simplified version? Is going to be b raised to the 3rd power. So our final simplified version of all of this is 1 over 64 b to the 3rd power. All right, 13. So 13, we want to simplify things. We want to go ahead and cross things out if we can go ahead and do that. So let's expand things out. I like to do that. How many a's do I have? I have a to the 2nd, so that means I have 2 a's. How many z's do I have? I have z to the 3rd, so that's 3 z's. 1, 2, 3. And then how many 2's do I have? Oh, I have 3 because it has an exponent of 3. Okay. And then on the bottom, I have 2 times a. And as before, I want to go ahead and cross things out on the top and bottom. I notice I have an a in the top and an a in the bottom cross out. I also notice I have a 2 on the top and the 2 on the bottom cross out. Okay, now let's kind of combine things together, make it a little bit more prettier. And also, mathematicians like to put the coefficients or the big numbers first. So on the front, I have 2 times 2. I still have an a, and then I have z times z times z. Okay, now let's write it with as exponents or numbers. So we're going to go ahead and multiply it. 2 times 2 is 4. How many a's do I have? I only have 1. So we can write it as a to the first. Mathematicians don't write down 1s or 0s, so we're just going to write it as a. And then I want my z's. How many z's do I have? I have 3 z's, so I'm going to write it as 3 to the 3rd power. So this is my simplified version of example number 13. All right, let's do example number 14. I do apologize. I forgot to put a little negative with the 4. Okay, so really what we have is 3x to negative 4 over x to the negative 5. This is actually what we're supposed to be doing. So sorry about that, okay? And let's look at it. So I know I have a negative exponent, so I always draw my fraction line just to make sure what's going on. Then I'm going to look at it individually. Does 3 have an exponent? He does not, so he's going to stay on the top. Does x have an exponent? Yes, it's negative. But we want to make it positive. So remember, I have to move the house. So I'm going to take the x to the 4th. I'm going to move it down on the bottom part of the fraction and make it a positive. Then down here on the bottom, I have x to the negative 5. Oh, they're unhappy, so I have to move their house. I have to move it to the top. and then notice how the 5 is now positive. So now I have 3x to the 5th on the top, x to the 4th on the bottom. Let's expand that out because it kind of helps us out a little bit. So on the top, we still have our 3. How many x's do I have? I have 5, so let's write that out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many x's do I have on the bottom? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, we can always cross out the same on the top and the bottom. So I have an x on the top, x on the bottom, x on the top, x on the bottom, x on the top, bottom, top, bottom. No more on the bottom, so I can't cross anything else out. And I have an x left over, and I have a 3 left over. So what is our final answer? 3x. This is our simplified version. So again, this is as far as we did as far as the exponents. So now since we've gone through a review of exponents, today is your Exponents Review All worksheet. So you should have a worksheet. You're going to go ahead and answer those questions. They go into Canvas. Make sure you go ahead and put those in, and that's what we're doing for today. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Bye.